So in this video I'm going to be doing a player assessment on Jim Thwaites, analysing how good he is, what his best attributes are, what his best role in Ruben Amorim's system would be, and actually giving him a rating on a scale of 20 as to how good I think he is now and how high his potential is, alongside talking about another young central midfielder from the continent who I think Manchester United should be keeping an eye out for before he establishes himself in senior football and instantly gets slapped with a £60 million valuation. But first, Jim Thwaites. What type of central midfielder is he? Well, Thwaites, who only turned 17 in December, just from the initial eye test is obviously a highly technical midfielder, having a wonderfully fluid technique both when dropping a shoulder and turning out of pressure, as well as when he's switching play with a long pass. There have been comparisons to David Beckham, which you can see particularly when you look at his crossing technique. But unlike Beckham, I think Thwaites is more of a deeper line midfielder compared with a wide midfielder, very similar to Joshua Kimmich, although at the moment, due to his height, he does have a nice low centre of gravity, which enables him to swivel and spin out of pressure, which is reminiscent of how players like Aguero and Iniesta would be able to turn away from players. And there are some stylistic elements of Frankie de Jong in Thwaites' game as well, with his press resistance and ball carrying ability being the obvious too. But I actually think he might be a bit quicker across the ground than de Jong was at that age, and slightly more tenacious, which I have to say has really only come about in the last 6 to 8 months or so, and that is expected because Thwaites is still closer to being 16 than he is to being 18. And I'm going to tell you exactly what that means for his overall role in Amorim's system going forward, but before that, if you do want to check out any cheap good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. They've got a variety of different current season and retro jerseys, including the Manchester United jerseys, going all the way back to the early 90s. Depending on where you live, you can get 7 to 12 day delivery time, as well as a 30-day money back guarantee. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you will get a discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. And remember to use code Atlantis at checkout in order to get a 10% discount for a limited time. So back to Jim Thwaites, add on some muscle and some physical strength that comes with that, alongside 1 to 2 years of learning how to play the central midfield role in Ruben Amorim's system, either in a 2-man or a 3-man central midfield, alongside the versatility to switch between different roles in the midfield, as well as improving his overall understanding of the game. And I think Thwaites is a player who I could see in Manchester United's title winning squad in 2.5 seasons come the 27-28 season, and I think that's a good way of judging players, and not just for Manchester United but in general. Don't solely evaluate players on the here and now if they are that young. Factor in some development in certain areas and think about how good they could be in 2 or 3 seasons. Now there's no point thinking beyond 2 or 3 seasons most of the time, as there are too many hidden variables that you can't factor in. But in terms of Jim Thwaites' current ability, like with a lot of the Manchester United under-18 team, I think he would be ready for a call-up to the first team, as he does have the confidence in his demeanour when he plays that would suit this Manchester United midfield, as United need someone who can receive the ball under pressure with their back to goal and be able to turn and drive it forward on their own, forcing an issue with a forward pass. Toby Collier doesn't do this enough for me, which is the biggest limitation in his game, but Thwaites has this, alongside the sort of press resistance and passing range that I think Collier also lacks. And Thwaites is also around 4 years younger than Collier, and so if I was Ruben Amorim, I'd be trying to integrate Thwaites alongside Sekou Kone, Jack Fletcher, Goodwill Kokonki and Bendito Mentato into the first team from now till the end of the season, just as he has begun to do with Chido Obi Martin and Aidan Heaven. Now I'll come on to the other players in that list in their own analysis videos, but in terms of Thwaites, stylistically like with Sekou Kone, I think he's exactly what Manchester United need, and if you can get him up to speed with senior football in the rest of the Premier League games going into next season, he alongside Sekou Kone could be 2 players who could be promoted to the first team in order to replace Casemiro and Eriksen, which would replace United's squad depth in central midfield, allow them to move on Collier for around £10 million and then go out and buy a central midfield starter with the athleticism and ball carrying ability that United also lack in central midfield. In either of Amorim's systems, the 3-5-2 or the 3-4-3, I think in possession, Thwaites would be valuable in all thirds of the pitch. In the build-up phase, the fluidity in his movement, ability to drop a shoulder and spin quickly, alongside his composure and technical ability, makes him a stylistic fit for what Amorim would need. And this is why I'm going to be starting to judge Amorim a lot harsher on his use of the young players, because it's not like he can say that players like Sekou Kone and Thwaites are not the right fits for the system, because even if they aren't perfect, they certainly suit those roles more than Eriksen and Casemiro, as unlike those two, in the build-up phase, Thwaites is capable of playing the role of a back-to-goal receiver on the edge of the box, being highly competent in using his quick darting movement in order to create space and angles for himself to receive possession, alongside the technical quality and the ball control to hold on to possession and pass or dribble his way out of pressure. Now Thwaites' low centre of gravity, press resistance and quick feet are a set of attributes that should be in high demand in modern day central midfielders, due to sides having become increasingly focused on playing through central pressure. And another young central midfielder who has all of these qualities, and someone who I actually rate higher than Thwaites, is Barcelona's Hilo Fernandez. I'm not 100% sure how you pronounce his first name, so I'm just going to go with Fernandez, but like Jim Thwaites, Hilo Fernandez has a fantastic aesthetic to his technique, short and stocky with a low centre of gravity, and Fernandez does actually resemble Sergio Aguero in his movement with the ball when turning, and even the way he wears his kit as well. And watching him is mesmerising at times, incredibly quick feet, having the sort of ball manipulation, flair and trickery that you'd expect to see in a winger, but with the technical maturity of a central midfielder. Both Thwaites and Fernandez are the type of players who are more than capable of working in congested areas out wide or centrally, using quick 1-2 touch passing, in order to link the play with their teammates before being able to change the pace of the game with a dribble past a pressing player, a turn, or a drive into the space, or even a direct switch of play. Thwaites is more of a passer and Fernandez is definitely more of a ball carrier and a dribbler, which are both hugely valuable when it comes to ball progression in the modern game. Thwaites' varied skill set means that in possession he's able to receive the ball with his back to goal under immediate pressure, as well as being the server trying to thread passes between the lines, and so this would allow Amorim to use Thwaites in the midfield double pivot centrally, but also allow him to drift wide and deep from central midfield, taking up a wide position in the back three, when United have settled possession, which could then allow someone like Kokonki at left-sided centre-back to push further forward down the left side, providing a third-man run ahead of Dorgu or Garnacho on the left. And on the right side, Thwaites' deeper movement would also allow the right-sided centre-back Mazraoui or Dalot to push further on and provide the same third-man runs from deep from the right side instead. And from this area, Thwaites can dictate the tempo of play, which Christian Eriksen could also do, but the difference between Thwaites and Eriksen is that Thwaites has the energy and tenacity that Eriksen lacks. Now of course you could say that Eriksen offers more in possession than Thwaites, which I guess is fair if you assume that Thwaites doesn't develop at all in the next 12 to 18 months, but already Thwaites is going to improve the possession system simply by adding more vertical movement to the patterns of play. Eriksen's lack of speed across the ground stifles United's ability to play quick vertical 1-2s that allow them to inject pace into the attack. But Thwaites certainly has the energy to provide this, and so in the middle third when he drops into a wide position in the back three to get on the ball, looking to pick a forward pass like a quarterback, he doesn't just have to hold a deeper position. He can then look to play the ball and make a movement ahead, down the channel, potentially looking to make a third man run and get into a crossing position where he can also be a creative threat. From set pieces or open play on either side, Thwaites can create chances through his crossing, which is a skill I'm particularly excited about at the moment because if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I've been talking about the importance of having crossing specialists and aerial threats inside of the box, in order to give you a way of creating chances consistently against narrow and deep defensive shapes, and Jim Thwaites would certainly provide this quality when he moves out wide. Thwaites is 17, Hilo Fernandez is 16, not 17 until June, and so they are in the same age group, but already at their young ages both players play with a maturity and composure that suggests their adaptation period to senior football could be minimal. I don't think United can get Fernandez anyway until he's 18, which actually works out quite well because he has a contract at Barcelona until 2027 when he does turn 19, and so United could potentially get him after his contract for a minimal compensation fee. And if that were possible, it would be a deal I'd be all over because I rate Hilo Fernandez incredibly highly and I actually think he has elite level potential. And before I break down exactly why, a quick reminder I do have a Patreon where you can get access to my unreleased articles. I've got topics on Leonardo da Vinci, on Jose Mourinho before his time at Porto, Nigerian football, essentially just niche topics that you may not have heard about. So if you do want to sign up and get a 7-day free trial, I'll leave it linked in all the usual places, the eye above, description, comment section, and on the end screen after the video. So both Thwaites and Fernandez are what I would describe as roaming playmakers, central midfielders who you want to drop deep in the build-up phase and in the middle third in order to aid ball progression, but players who you also want to give the license to push further forward in the attack, with Thwaites' long-range passing and crossing being where he is the biggest creative threat, with Hilo Fernandez's being his dribbling, dynamic ball carrying, quick feet, and interplay with teammates in and around the box. In terms of current ability, I think both Thwaites and Hilo Fernandez are already good enough to get sufficient game time in teams at the lower end of La Liga and Serie A, maybe not Premier League level at the moment, only because of their physical maturity, certainly not because of their technical ability. And so on current ability, I give Jim Thwaites an 8 out of 20 and Hilo Fernandez a 9 out of 20, with a 10 out of 20 being standard Premier League starter level. But in terms of potential, I rate both players incredibly highly. If a 15 was Champions League starter level and a 16 was elite level, with 17 to 20 being established world class level rankings, I'd probably give Hilo Fernandez a 16 at the moment and Jim Thwaites a 15 for potential, as I just think that both players have skill sets that are so unique and valuable in multiple different phases of play that I just can't see how they don't, under the right manager, and if developed properly of course, eventually become Champions League level players. So let me know what you think of Hilo Fernandez and Jim Thwaites in the comment section below. If you do want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, I'll leave it linked in all the usual places, and use code ATLANTIS at checkout for a 10% discount. Suggest some other names who you want me to do analysis videos on, and if you do want to sign up to the Patreon, I'll leave it linked on the end screen now.